Well, good morning, people. Um, I suppose I should start off by saying I have been pulling out bags upon bags and boxes and boxes and boxes full of evidence, all of it needing to go through. My autism advocate, she said on the night before I was arrested on bogus charges, she said it would take months to go through all of the evidence that I had sent her. And it wasn't even a tiny portion of all of the evidence. It's 9:23 today. This post is actually about what happened yesterday. Yesterday, I was driving up to a friend's house, and he's one of those people that, well, he knows this shit's going on. He says often that I'm getting royally screwed, but he also doesn't want to get involved. Well, today, as I was driving up there were some kids over at the park, and I heard one of them yell, "That's Sean Schwartz." Yes, it is. Now, did I recognize the kids? No. For starters, they were too far away. Second of all, I was driving. I gave them a courtesy nod because somebody screamed my name. That's kind of what's expected in a small town. But beyond that, if they needed my help, they could scream the word help, and I would absolutely every time. Um, Leslie Snell and her kids. Leslie Snell screwed up big, not her kids. Let's take a look at Robert Warnick and his kids. Robert Warnick screwed up big, not his kids. Leslie Snell claimed that I had threatened her kids. I want to see proof of it, Leslie. You literally lied in order to get a protection order from someone who was trying to turn you in while that person was illegally prevented from even going to court because you lied. I also can't talk to the Dual County Sheriff's Department or call 911 or go to the courthouse. So, any legal stuff that I got to take care of in this town, I am illegally prevented from doing. Now, what would happen if one of Leslie's kids come up to me and said, "I need help. My grandpa's molesting me, or my mom, or my dad, or whoever it happens to be?" Well, those kids would get my help. What if I saw those kids getting beaten by somebody down at the park? Well, those kids would get my help. And not because they're Leslie's kids, or not because they're Robert's kids, but simply because they are kids. Most of the abuse for me growing up, I was told, hey, when you turn 18, you can actually do something. When you turn 18, you'll have actual rights. When you turn 18, you can speak up and somebody might actually listen. No, the hell they don't. I was raped as a kid. I was beaten as a kid. I had to deal with a lot of hate crimes against me as a kid because I just happened to be a white boy in the system, or I happened to go to the minority schools. Look up Lincoln High School in Tacoma, Washington. Look at their demographics. A little over 81% minorities at that high school. That was my first high school, by the way. When it comes to Amy Kingery, she's pissed off because I chose kids. I chose her kids over loyalty. She chose drugs over her kids. No, she does not get loyalty out of me. She should have chosen her kids. Just like my mother should have chosen her kids. Just like my dad should have chosen his kids. Just like Ted Bollinger should have chosen his kids. But they didn't, did they? I didn't just protect Amy Kingery's kids. I also protected Amy Kingery, even after the horrible shit that she did to me. Now, y'all might notice that this is something that's pretty commonplace for me. I give people more chances than I probably should. After the bullshit that Desiree pulled at my apartment and stealing all of my things, literally, she stole evidence and sold it so that she could get meth. That's what Desiree did. And you know, I didn't just rescue her from that trap house once, I rescued her from that very same trap house twice. I didn't just protect Amy Kingery's kids from Joshua Rayborn. I also protected them from another friend of mine, Ryan Ingersoll. Ryan is dead now. But I did protect Amy Kingery's kids from Rihanna. I tried calling it in anonymously twice before I had to do desperate things to try to get them kids safe. And those aren't the only kids. See, through all of this, a lot of the people that actually tried to help me, they have kids and they're addicted. I'm going to give you an example. Shannon Alvarado, she wanted to help. Her heart was in the right place, but she was entirely unproductive because she's an alcoholic. And also because her antics were literally every night. Most of the time, for 8 full hours a night, I had to listen to her drunk screaming, drunk fighting, drunk arguing with her boyfriend. Now, she meant well, but she couldn't shut up long enough to find out what was going on. She couldn't stop arguing with her boyfriend. It was the same every day there. Well, we'll work on that tonight, Sean. We'll work on it together. And then at night, starting at 6 o'clock at night, well, that's drinking time. A lot of y'all know alcoholics that the more booze they get in them, the worse they get. Some of you know really bad alcoholics that as soon as that stuff touches their lips, they turn into a monster. They turn into a completely different person as soon as it touches their lips. Shannon Alvarado is that kind. But she's not always angry. Sometimes she gets drunk with someone else. That was her boyfriend, the guy who took the majority of the abuse while I was there. I do give people a lot of chances. Even after everything that Natalie had done to me and her friends for an entire year before Natalie disappeared. When she disappeared, I still tried to help find her and get her safe. I offered her every penny that I had to try to get her safe, including money that was given to me by a woman named Kinga Nichols. Now, there's a conversation between Kinga Nichols and I on this YouTube channel. There's, matter of fact, conversations between me and most of the witnesses on this YouTube channel. A lot of the conversations with those witnesses that are not on this YouTube channel, I still have. Now, I'm going to make a short video with my phone to show the sheer quantity of evidence that I have to go through and the fact that a couple of days just isn't enough. Me and my autism advocate and an agency that's supposed to help disabled adults worked together to get me a room for 7 nights. so that I would have some peace and quiet, wouldn't have to be afraid, and I could actually go through that stuff in peace and quiet and actually have some help. I could call my autism advocate, and mind you, I actually did. We spoke for between 3 and 4 hours the day before I was arrested, trying to get everything coordinated. I didn't get to spend that 7 days at that hotel room going through that stuff. I had to go through that paperwork and all of that other evidence so that I could turn in Leslie Snell, Robert Warnick, William Barr, and Sheriff DaCosta, as well as his deputies. It is no surprise that these people, after I voiced what I was doing on YouTube and said that I was trying to turn these people in, it is no surprise that they conspired to prevent me from doing so. They worked together to do this. Leslie Snell's name is on almost all of my court documents. Meanwhile, she outright lied in her paperwork and said that there was no other court stuff going on between her and I. But it doesn't matter because I was illegally prevented from going, so she automatically won. Meanwhile, these things are felonies. What she did is a felony. Multiple felonies, matter of fact. Now, Robert Warnick, he could have gotten off with a misdemeanor, but the fact is, because I'm disabled, he committed a felony. Then again, he's walking free. I wasn't even charged with a felony. I was charged with misdemeanors, and they were all lies. They literally had to let me go due to lack of evidence because they had no evidence. They lied. And then they illegally prevented me from going to court so that they would automatically win. When you see the pile of evidence I got to go through, you will be, well, surprised as shit. But then again, this evidence has been accumulated over about 5 years. Now, this is not all of my evidence that I'm going to show you. Most of my evidence is on my computers, on my YouTube, on my Facebook. Most of my evidence is electronic. So the pile of evidence that I am going to show you in my next video does not include that stuff. Although, being as I have two of my computers open and on, I can show you the massive piles of that evidence as well. Yes, I fight for disabled people. Yes, I fight for the homeless. But I also fight for children first and foremost. Now, I get the rumors that have been going around town about me. I mean, shit, those rumors were on the fucking national news. You know? Like, yeah, I heard the rumors. Now, maybe them kids that were saying, it's Sean Schwartz, maybe they heard those nasty rumors. Or maybe it's some kids that I know, I just don't recognize them and I'm friends with their parents, which is a possibility. There are a few people here in town that are still friends with me. They're just busy, most of them. And some of them have to worry about their livelihoods. They also have to worry about them being the target of my predators in this town, which is understandable. For a lot of these folks that tried to help me, it was police that they had to be afraid of. Candace Bondurant, for example. Now, I've shown the evidence time and again about how the situation with Candace Bondurant, she was harassed and intimidated by an officer who legally should have come to speak to me. But then again, they didn't care about protocol. They were too busy trying to frame me for crimes I didn't commit at the time. That's right. Law enforcement was so certain that I had killed Natalie that they had no problems, no moral qualms about committing felonies to try to literally frame me for crimes that I did not commit, including repeatedly assaulting me and then trying to charge me with assault. Well, that shit don't work. They had to repeatedly drop the charges. And the important thing about dropping the charges before I was allowed to actually have a court date was that if I'd have been allowed to have a court date, then their body cam evidence would have been allowed to be shown. And that body camera evidence shows that those police officers across the board committed multiple felonies. A lot of these people that want to be angry at me pretend like I'm some sort of a bad person because they have kids or they have to worry about their kids' safety. I have to worry about all of their children's safety. See, that's the thing about Candace Bondurant and the things that she did after Natalie was killed. It wasn't just her kids that I had to worry about. I had to worry about all of my loved ones who spoke up for me and their children because of the sheer quantity of threats and harassment, and because of the quantity of people who had already gotten violent with me before Natalie disappeared. Candace Bondurant, that just didn't register in her head. Candace Bondurant, I get it, she was worried for her children. However, I was worried for her children too. I was also worried for Miss Peach's children. That's Kayla Trujillo. I also had to be worried for Mandy Hughes's kids and Alyssa Rainwater's kid. And they're not the only ones. I had to worry about many people and their children because of the way that the media and law enforcement did not handle the situation. What they did was highly inappropriate. I needed a safe place in the state of Colorado after Natalie disappeared. We didn't even know she was dead. I was already forced into homelessness. Before Natalie was killed, I was assaulted on at least 7 occasions, what I consider assault. Now, according to the letter of the law, there were a lot more situations in the year before Natalie was killed where I was assaulted. See, there's the legal definition, and then there's what somebody going through it would consider. The 7 people who assaulted me before Natalie was killed outright assaulted me. Whereas, according to the law, if they had pushed me or grabbed a hold of my arm, that's considered assault. Now, after Natalie was killed, matter of fact, after she disappeared, before we knew that she was dead, I had been assaulted at least 15 times between when she disappeared and when I found out she was actually dead. You're not going to find any children that I've abused. There's a reason for that. I protect the victims. I grew up as a victim. As an adult, I speak out. I spoke out as a kid, but nobody listened. I speak out as an adult, people still don't listen, but for different reasons. When you're a kid, they don't listen because you're a kid, you have no rights. As an adult, they don't listen because I'm broke, because I'm not physically attractive, and because I am a male. I'm told that I can't possibly be a victim of police brutality because I'm white. That makes no sense whatsoever. Now, day before yesterday, when all them kids were getting out of school, I don't remember if it was lunchtime or if it was after lunch when they were actually going home from school. But there was a bunch of kids walking the same route that I did. Back in high school, I went to the same high school that they do. I had to walk the same route to get to the same places as they do. However, I try not to go out into public anytime that there's a decent amount of traffic. I just don't want to deal with the people in this town. There's also the fact that I really don't want to have anything to do with any of their children. I don't want to talk to their kids. I don't want to listen to their kids. I don't want to hang out with their kids. And it's not that their kids are bad people. Hell, some of these kids are probably great people. But I don't want the bullshit that goes along with having somebody see me anywhere in the vicinity of somebody who is under the age of 19. Because here in the state of Nebraska, you are not considered an adult until you're 19. Now, there was something that I had explained to Natalie about how here in Chapel, Nebraska, I could be friends with kids. That's because I was friends with their parents, their aunts, their uncles. It's not that I was necessarily friends with the kids. It's that if you have a friend who is a parent, you accept those kids. If you want to go and hang out with Miss Jerry, of course, all of her kids are grown up now. But when she lived here in Chapel, Nebraska, I mean, her daughter Jennifer and her son Donnie and her son Tyler, yeah, these were my friends. These were people that I babysat. Of course, Miss Jerry was also paying Lana Engeline to babysit them, but all Lana did was smoke pot in her trailer. Yeah, go figure. When there was no food in the house, I would bring food into the house. Not for Miss Jerry, but for her kids. And yes, Miss Jerry was the one who was my friend. Now, there were more than one occasion when Miss Jerry told her kids to go hang out with me, or many occasions where she said, "Hey, Sean, could you keep my kids occupied? They're over at the house. I don't want them getting into any trouble." Sure, I'll go watch your kids. And how many times did I abuse Miss Jerry's kids? None. How many times did I abuse Amy Kingery's kids? None. How many times did I abuse Candace Bondurant's kids? None. How many times did I abuse Mandy Hughes's kids? None. How about Alyssa Rainwater's kid? None. Kayla Trujillo, did I ever hurt her kids? No. How about Laura Nelson? Have I ever abused her son? No. The answer is always no. There are a lot of nasty people out there. People like Ted Bollinger and Tim Beeson, who need to realize that children are not sex toys. How many times have I abused Robert Warnick's kids? Never. How many times have I abused William Barr's kids? It's never happened. How about Leslie Snell's kids? Never. Not once ever. Meanwhile, Robert Warnick, William Barr, and Leslie Snell, all three tried pretending like I was threatening their children. That somehow magically justifies the crimes that they committed because they abused their privilege as parents to try to have a man illegally incarcerated, and they succeeded. Of course, my mom ain't much different. All four of my mother's children have either A, been incarcerated for things that she did, or B, incarcerated for things that literally never happened. When it comes to any of the kids in this town, it's the same as kids anywhere else in America. If I see abuse, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna say something. I'm not gonna be quiet. I'm not gonna pretend it's not happening. I am not gonna look the other way. I am not gonna turn the other cheek. If you abuse kids, I'm gonna make some goddamn noise. Then, not just Amy Kingery, but also Amy Witcher. I had to worry about her kids and their safety. And not from a bunch of web wing nuts, not even from the Bollinger family that at that point. The real concern there is Andrew Witcher, the father of two of her kids, getting all methed out of his gourd and molesting them. Not okay. Not okay. Now, so far as I have heard, he only molested one of them, the oldest. But that doesn't make it okay. That doesn't make it any better. They also live in this town. My little sister is not a child molester, and my mom wouldn't lift a finger to help my sister or her daughter. My older brother Eric is not a child molester. My mom wouldn't lift a finger to help him. I am not a child molester, but my mom wouldn't lift a finger to help me. My little brother Michael molested his own stepdaughter. And that was around the same time that Natalie disappeared. My mom helped the shit out of my little brother Michael, helped him to get away with the crime. How messed up is that? Then there's Andrew Witcher. My mom's house on First Street here in Chapel. She could have let my little sister use that house instead of my sister having to be homeless in Sydney, Nebraska. That shit's not okay. But Andrew Witcher is a child molester, so of course she helped him. Then there's her own dad. My mom, most of the time growing up, when she would talk about my grandpa, it was about the fact that he raped her growing up. He raped her even when she was a senior in high school. My grandpa was raping my mom. But then my grandpa had money and he had a house that my mom thought she was going to inherit. So right before grandpa died, she pretended like she loved him. She didn't. My mom loves two things: herself and cocaine. Now there's a thing here, Anna Saves, and I've been reading it. Anna's segment was pretty messed up, but let's read this one. This one's from James Forsyth. It says, "Wow, I went through a really similar situation in high school. A girl I was last seen with went missing, and because of my appearance, I had a lot of tattoos already in high school, and the only person who listened to metal in MH entire town at the time. And the girl who disappeared, we weren't friends. We didn't dislike each other, but we didn't talk. So when people saw me with, well, basically near her at the last time her friend seen her, I went through a lot of bullshit because of this. She was later found alive and well, but she had ran away from home. She was gone nearly a month, but she actually came to my defense after all of this. Because I definitely didn't receive any apologies or my bad, I just got the more, if you didn't look and act this way, then people wouldn't think bad things about you. The funniest and most ironic thing is me and Carlene are actually married and have kids now, lol. This happened in the early 2000s. but we've been together almost 14 years now. And the thing is, she wasn't a girl who partied or ran off with a boyfriend, anything like that. No one really knew why she ran away until after we started dating. Then she finally came forward about what her stepfather did to and was doing to her. He is actually in prison right now for reoffending and posing child pornography. Sometimes people need to learn not to just take things at face value. I replied to him, "Thank you for sharing that, James. I'm the guy they tried blaming for Natalie's death before Lopez was caught." Now, there's a bunch of other stuff up here that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Here's someone, Angshuman Bhattacharya, typed, "I'm scared for the other twin." So am I. She's addicted to the same drugs. Now, there's a lot of people, they keep asking this same question. Why is it some guys can't take no for an answer? And a lot of them type stuff like, this guy should have taken no for an answer. The first time he didn't take no for an answer. No to an answer about what? Now, a lot of people have actually embellished on this, assuming that me and Natalie, all of our friendship and all of that was all about sex. No, we never had sex. We never had sex. We didn't have a sexual relationship. We didn't date. We didn't kiss. We didn't cuddle. We didn't do any of those things. I never asked her for sex. I never tried to get sex. But when people say, well, some guys just won't take no for an answer. How many times did I ask Natalie out? Oh, yeah, 0 times. 0. Now, something that y'all might know about me if you've paid any attention is that I don't get embarrassed. If I like a woman, I'll ask her out. Not a problem. Being rejected, also not a problem. I mean, probably the first 100 girls I asked out when I was growing up said no. You know, when you get told no, probably the first 5 times, it kind of hurts. It does, especially when you're that young. And when I was turned down for getting a girlfriend, that was an expectation that people had of me. There was a bunch of pressure on me from people to get a girlfriend. I mean, my dad thought that it was horrible that I was still a virgin at 9 years old. What the hell? My dad had actually tried hiring a prostitute. He said, "Sean, if I hired a prostitute for you, would you have sex with her?" No. I was like, I want to say I was 13 at the time, but I don't know for certain. It was a lot of years ago. And this is the reality of the situation. People don't care what happened. They just want to assume that because I have a penis, this was all about sex. Then they want to pretend like I'm a druggie to try to justify the crimes they committed. Like they assaulted me for crimes that I didn't commit. And then they say, oh, well, he's on drugs. And magically, they didn't commit the crime. And that's how it works in reality. In reality, the victims are victimized by law enforcement. The victims are victimized by the community. Now, there's a lot of people on here who wanted to continue with the stalker bullshit, so on and so forth. Let's see. But there's also people on here. I'm trying to. Oh, Ahsoka Tano. I realize that's not this person's real name. It's a character from Star Wars, but I like the character. But there's people here who really don't know what the hell they're talking about. They just want to share the same BS that they've been told. Like this right here, this is Anna Saves, and she literally regurgitates the same crap as all of the other sites that came before her. There's nothing new. A lot of these sites I sent information to when they said, well, we'll take a look into it and we'll tell your side. Well, did they? No. Rob Gavigan hasn't tried. I already sent him a bunch of stuff and he said he would get back to me once he'd gone through it. Obviously, he hasn't gotten back to me or gone through it. He said once he'd gone through it that I could send him some more, but that's not a happening thing, is it? Now there's this guy here. I'm scrolling all the way up because there's a lot of comments on here. This person calls himself Son of the Witch. And this person claims to know me. You know, maybe they do. Maybe Son of the Witch is Andrew Witcher. His dad's last name is Witcher. It makes sense. If he really does know me. Of course, there's also a lot of people who pretended to know me that don't. This is a big story. They could get YouTube famous. Oh, morons. But there's a lot of these people. Let's see. They also type about other killers, of course. And there's a lot of people on here who complain a whole bunch. The reason that they complain is because, they thought that this was to get information out, and it turns out it's just for entertainment purposes. Well, obviously, it's just for entertainment purposes for these people. But the damage that they're doing is to my real life, to my real relationships and friendships in real life. The guys threatening me on YouTube and Facebook are not my big major deal. My big major deal is actual predators in real life that I have to deal with. People who actually assaulted me in real life. People who have access to firearms and to me in real life. Now, sure, Robert Warnick is not legally allowed to own firearms, but at the same time, this is Chapel, Nebraska. He can still get one. Oh, here's one from a month ago. It's from someone named Maggie Cogsdale. It says, Natalie went to my high school briefly. She's loved by so many people. Thank you for covering this. And she was. When Natalie died, I still loved her and I still do. Despite the things that she did to me, I still loved her enough that I was trying to help find her and give her every penny that I had to get her somewhere safe. Despite the things that her twin sister did, which is, to be perfectly blunt with you, that's where all of these issues started. Natalie's twin sister, Alicia, would not take no for an answer. Her twin sister, Alicia, we had to do what she wanted. And that hurt Natalie so much. But did that matter? Another thing is the Facebook Messenger between Natalie Bollinger and I. It shows that not only did Natalie think that she was in love with me, which I thought I had talked her out of, and you will see that, of course. I thought I had talked her out of it. There's also the fact that her ex boyfriend, Tim Beeson, while I was in Virginia, was threatening to shoot himself in the head because he's an actual creepy ass fucking stalker druggy dude who is sending pictures of weapons to people to menace them. That's what it's called, menacing. I'm not the only person he did this to, mind you. He did it to a lot of people. Someone named Stacy Brenda Now I'm gonna like this comment because it's nice. It says this case taught me to never judge a book by its cover. I'm gonna type the word thank you to that. Now this person doesn't quite know me. She typed, he is a literal angel though. He's just concerned with her ending her life. I am not an angel. Not even close. Now there's a movie where God, what's that guy's name? Oh, I can't remember. He played in Pulp Fiction. Anyway, he was in a movie with Andy McDowell where he played an angel named Michael. Ah, the name of the movie is Michael. That's what it was. And when Andy McDowell is talking about all of his attributes, he says, I'm not that kind of angel. I don't always know the right thing to do, but I do know that suppressing the truth is not good for any of us. And sometimes people tell little white lies that are not so little. Natalie told a little white lie because she wanted to save face. I don't care about saving face because I don't get embarrassed. Natalie did get embarrassed. She also lied because she was embarrassed. And it was just a little white lie because she didn't want to get in trouble. I get it. But look, it was come of this. Now, this isn't the only one of these. I mean, there are a ton of them. I'm still scrolling up. Someone calling themselves Livy Divvy typed a lot of stuff on here that was complete and total ignorance. Matter of fact, a lot of people did. And they seem to go back to the same thing over and over and over and over again. That you need to learn to take no for an answer. I'm fine with the word no. I'm not fine with people threatening to kill me. I'm not fine with them threatening to kill my relatives. I'm not fine with them threatening to kill my friends. I'm not fine with being assaulted. I'm not fine with being stalked on the internet or in real life. But if I was to choose between the two, if someone were to say to me, Sean, would you rather be stalked in real life or on the internet? I'd say on the internet. Someone harassing me on the internet? Hell, you guys have seen me plenty of times on my live streams. Go over to a bunch of cruel comments over on the right hand side in the live chat and remove a user from my channel. You can do that on YouTube. If you remove somebody from your channel in real life, how would you do that? Now I want you to think to yourself, if you actually did that, would you be charged with a crime? Good question, huh? Let's see. This person calls himself Mary's Jane. It says, I don't think we can trust anything that girl said he was doing. She was literally clearly setting him up for whatever sick reason, and the police went through all their messaging and still couldn't make him a suspect. I can't believe y'all feel bad for this girl dealing with a stalker when she did what she did to him. Like literally telling people if she dies, make sure to tell the police it was that guy, and then hiring someone else to kill her. Just take your life and go. Why would you hurt others in that situation? I don't think anyone should take their life, but dead ass, if you want to and you're thinking about framing someone for it, don't do that and either take yourself to the mental hospital or go do it and not involve anyone else. There's a bunch of these. I'm gonna click on this, copy video URL. Mind you, this is Natalie Bollinger was killed in December of 2017. Now, this one right here is one of 8 of them that are recent from this year. all sorts of different languages. Now, also, I was treated like I was delusional for saying that these sites exist. Well, obviously, if I can find it on the internet and click on it and copy and paste it to the live chat over on the right hand side of my computer here, obviously it's not a figment of my imagination. Someone named Laura Ralph typed, I don't believe you stalked her. I believe you guys were friends. It was the family who said that. It wasn't just the family, but also Natalie wanted her family to love her. That's what she wanted more than anything else. And Natalie did have a lot of love, even after her dad raped her repeatedly and sold her body to drug dealers that he owed money to. Even after that, Natalie just wanted him to love her right. She made comments about that. She expressed that not just on her Facebook, but also on her YouTube channel. How many of you knew that Natalie Bollinger had a YouTube channel of her own? Anyway, I should get to my phone and show you guys the mass quantity of evidence I got to go through. It's a substantial amount. Y'all be safe. When it comes to protecting people, kids come first and foremost. They are more important than my life and more important than yours. They are more important than your drugs. They are more important than sex. Children are more important than all of you. And I got to tell you, even if you're my best friend in the whole wide world, you rape a kid, I'm not going to cover for your ass. I'm not going to make shit up to protect you. If I see you molesting a kid, all hell's going to break loose. There are things you just don't do. You don't falsely accuse somebody of a heinous crime, and you don't commit heinous crimes.